Jeanneau Sun Odyssey 350. This is the new model replacing the 349. I think this one's got very broad appeal, Andrew.
Yep.
And we're about to go sailing on it, so keep watching. Okay, here we are on beautiful Sydney Harbour. Andrew and Lee with me today. Andrew at the helm as per usual. And so Andrew, let's start us off. What sails have we got on this boat today? And then we'll start going through some numbers.
They're a French yard. Lee, who's the sailmaker for this? I'm not familiar.
Technique wall.
Technique Voile, yep. And very famous French sail loft. Little Lee's on the jib, we're just reaching. Yep, so we've got seven knots of breeze. Very light here today on the harbour,
Unfortunately. This is the second time we've attempted to sail this boat, and the first time in France we had absolutely nothing, so this is the best we're going to do. So we've got boom bag and lazy jacks. Obviously a lot of people are going to also be interested in the mid-mast furling, but we'll just focus on this boat. And yeah, Andrew, just you guys are going to be working to get her moving, although she's slipping along quite nice. So when you're happy, yeah, just feed us through some numbers and some feedback.
Yeah, so we got 8.7 knots true apparent,
Yep.
sailing at 60 degrees. What's our speed of the ground, Lee?
4.8 knots.
4.8 knots. So boat feels pretty lively. I mean, all boats love reaching, but she feels good. You know, we're just trying to make the most of this breeze while we've got it.
Whilst we have it, yeah. Any observations from the helm there?
Helm's nice and light. It's a little bit heavier than a single rudder boat would be.
Yep.
But you know, if you're sailing the boat in a lot of breeze, you'd get all the benefits of that second rudder.
Sure. Should we go onto the wind and then
Yep.
we have it and see what we can discover?
Yeah, no worries. I'm just going to do a little luff up here, Dan, to get the jib inside the skirt.
Yeah.
Perfect, good lean off.
Oh, yeah.
So what Andrew's doing is just pointing the boat a little bit higher to windward to make it easy to get that jib inside the lifeline. So when he says get the jib,
Give a little,
come on, people. Very good. And so that's happening now. We do these manoeuvres nice, slow and steady, but it's just test sail. We're not racing.
Falling away now.
Although I note a lot of people on Sydney Harbour race these Jeanneaus, and so this is going to be a popular boat for some club sailing, twilighting type thing for sure. Okay.
So one of the nice things, Dan, is everything's within reach of the helm. So Lee's doing the jib, and I'm just going to wind a little bit of main sheet on. Okay, so here we go. Very, very light air here today, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But it's not bad to test boats in light air, because any boat will sail in 12 to 15 knots.
Correct.
You get to really see what the true thoroughbred of the boat is like in lighter air. So we're just slowly bringing her up here. Very light, unfortunately.
We'll move it.
So I've just switched the glasses on, and from the helm you can see you've got really good visibility. Only a small black spot behind the jib, but you can really see everything that's going on around you. So,
yep.
And a very comfortable helming position.
Yeah.
It's getting closer.
So we're still slipping along. What's our boat speed there?
It's in the threes. What is it, Lee?
It's building now in there. Pressure 2.6, 2.7.
Yeah, speed will build. Breeze is very shifty because it's so light. So
So if you're racing here, if I wasn't flying this drone, I would have my weight to leeward.
So we're up at 3-1 now.
Yeah, so 3.1 knots in 6 knots of breeze. So a little gust on here, we'll just see what that does for us. Super shifty here. There's more air on the bow, so hopefully we'll get the use of that.
And where are you looking for those watching who aren't necessarily competent sailors, but like the idea of something like this, Andrew? Are you looking how far ahead to pick those wind gusts?
Oh yeah, we're just looking at, you know, up the course.
Yep.
And so when it's super light like this, it's easy to see the wind because the water's quite a lot darker where the breeze is.
Yep, I'll get the drone up to try and demonstrate that. And so, if you are looking at this boat seems to have some broad appeal. People who've had larger yachts.
Hey, look, he says a bit of jib head. That's
People
really
who've,
tight.
Yeah.
Possibly
That's
also
funny,
coming up from older style yachts, and this is their first new yacht. Even older, less mobile people seeing value in the design because we can just walk forward from the helm now.
Yeah, that's better.
It's quite a safe layout. But you know, whether you fit this boat up with the current mainsail and jib or do the in-mast furling, you can really make it easy for yourself. So we're just doing our best to demonstrate that, what we have.
Quite difficult, Dan, because the wind is super shifty.
Yep. Well, that's what we're doing. We're just testing boats in the conditions we have. So
Yeah, exactly.
But as we know now, and Lee, you even gave us some owners' experience stories with these twin rudders. When you got the pressure is on and you feel like you're going to round up, it doesn't happen on these boats. So look a lot more controllable for a number of reasons. It's not just the twin rudder you're saying, it's the mast forward, the form stability, and it's a lot of things, which is allowing this boat to be perhaps a lot more controllable. Or would you say a novice sailor, or just someone who wants to relax more?
It just makes it more forgiving.
Yeah. More forgiving is probably what a lot of people are looking for. What's the call, Andrew? Do we want to commit to this?
Look, let's do a little tack and go into a reach.
Yep.
And let's just see, we might have to just bring the drone back in and have another go.
Let's chuck it on the reach and see what we can achieve.
A little bit of breeze coming off the beach here in Rose Bay. We might be lucky.
Are the wind gods just looking down on me? This is the second time I've sailed this boat with no wind. What's going on? Still very pleasant though. It's a nice cockpit to hang out in. That looks like about 1.5 to 2 knots boat speed there.
Yeah, the breeze is probably
Yeah, 2.1 knots of boat.
4.5 knots apparent wind.
Okay.
A little bit more air coming here.
I guess the fact that these modern boats will still slip along in conditions like this, I mean, when you go to the Mediterranean, you get a lot of conditions like this, to be fair. So
One extreme or the other.
you can still sail.
Yeah, and here's a little bit more breeze, so let's just let that build and here we go.
All right.
That's what we came here for.
Okay.
Four knots of boat speed. And you know, now with a bit of breeze, she feels lively. You know, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you know what? That acceleration is noticeable.
Yeah, right. Yep. Yeah, 4.6 now.
Yep.
And the boat does. It feels light and lively. You can feel her wanting to go over the waves.
Yep.
4.8 knots of boat speed here.
You know, if you're the guy or girl that's had that the 40, 50-year-old Australian design that was built to go to Hobart and really, you know, the cockpit is about the size of 3 or 4 people if you're lucky, you're going to see a lot of value in moving into something like this.
Yeah. So, Dan, if you go further away from the boat to the east
Yes.
and go up, you'll see a boat that probably wouldn't be going as fast as this in 5 knots of breeze. It's green. Pan around to the left.
Right now.
So can you see it? It's parallel with us over behind us. She's probably not going to be ripping along like this.
Well, there you go. There's an example. That's probably a 50-year-old boat. You just wouldn't even bother just behind us right now. We've just hidden it with our sails.
Yeah, we're doing 5.2 knots. And how much wind have we got there, Lee?
It's now apparent with 8.7.
Yeah.
So we can still get out here and have fun.
Yeah. But the boat really feels nice.
Yeah.
You know, she feels responsive. And you know, we've got a little bit of breeze, which is fantastic. But what we
you
might
won't
do,
get a sense of it in this, but what I've noticed is how rock solid the boat feels.
so
Offshore, that's really quite surprising.
so
It
Dan,
feels like a much more substantial boat.
while we've got this little bit of breeze, let's just sheet back on and have a little upwind.
Yeah, sure.
Just while we're going to this, it's only going to be for 40 seconds.
Yeah, let's just make do with what we've got.
Just so we can try and get a feel for it. Okay, here we go. Let's make sure we're not too hard on the jib. It's not that windy.
Happy with that?
Yep. Tiny increase in air here.
A little bit of pressure. It's got quite nice lines when you're looking at from the drone. It's an
Right.
attractive boat with these whole windows.
Just going to try sitting in the helming position. Yeah, it's comfortable. And there's a nice foot chock here.
Yep.
But you've really got a good view of everything that's happening around. And if I needed to run forward to do something, I've got this nice ramp to go forward. So
Yeah.
here's a tiny increase in pressure.
And just moving from one wheel to the other, you've got 2 chocks there to take advantage of.
Yeah, and you've got a chock to support yourself, but it's a nice, comfortable walk across. The steering has is positive enough that you can actually let go of the wheel for a moment to cross. But if you're worried, you can actually grab both wheels.
Sure.
When you do that transfer, so you don't have to let go of the wheel. Yep. So light now, I don't even need to hang onto the wheel now.
Yep.
I don't want to be a party pooper here, Dan, but I think this might be us for a little while. Let's get the drone back in.
Yeah.
And
let's
maybe
do it.
go downwind and see if we can find some more breeze.
Let's curl that jib and
I'll let the main
we'll
sheet
either
off.
cut to another scene with us if we've found some more wind guys, or we'll be going straight to the motor test from this, depending on what Mother Nature has in store for us. Okay, so we have repositioned and we still have light airs.
Bit more air coming.
What's
Andrew's the optimist.
yeah, exactly. What are we currently sailing in, Andrew, and what do you foresee?
I see a bit more breeze in about 3 boat lengths.
Okay.
But I'd say we're probably in 5 knots of breeze.
5 knots of breeze.
Yeah, 6.9 knots apparent, 7 knots apparent, 2 knots of boat speed. So yeah.
All right.
Here's the breeze in 1.5 lengths.
So whilst we are hunting for breeze, we might as well talk about different sail selections and sail options for different people on who's going to suit what.
Yeah.
It seems like in-mast furling and self-tackers have been quite a popular selection, but just discussing it with Lee earlier, a lot of the guys end up opting out of the self-tacker and going back to their traditional jib. So that's an interesting little observation. Obviously, it's due to the power. What are your thoughts on that, Anne?
Look, it's all about how simple, or not simple, but how easy you want to make your day on the water.
Yeah.
You know, for pure ease of handling and ease of use, in-mast furling in a self-tacking jib is the simplest way to go sailing or be boating.
Yep.
Unless you own a powerboat.
Yeah.
Then it's simpler. But if you want to go sailing like a real man, you know, you have sails.
Don't say that. I have a lot of friends watching this channel who aren't powerboat.
I'm trying to convert them if they're man enough. But if you want to go sailing, having an in-mast furler and a self-tacking jib is easy.
Yep.
You unfurl the sail, you're sailing.
Yep.
And where the ease of use really comes in is at the end of the day. You pull the string or you push the button,
Yep.
sails furl away, the boat's packed up.
Yep.
And so for that, it's hard to beat.
So you get the sensation, you get the experience of sailing. What do you compromise with furling?
Okay, so you compromise on both sails to a certain extent. So starting with the self-tacking jib, because the track is in front of the mast,
Yep.
and we need to have the sail sheeting at a certain angle,
Yep.
the foot of the jib has to be in front of the track.
Yep.
So we end up with a sail that's quite small. And when we're talking about sail measurements, one of our major measurements is the J, which is the distance from the bow of the boat to the mast.
Yep.
And so on a self-tacking jib, we've got a foot about an LP about 90% of J.
Yep.
So we're giving away at least 10% of the basic area.
Yep.
But in reality, it's more like 15 to 20% because most sails come back behind the mast.
Yeah, I'm looking at that right now from the drone. You can quite clearly see the jib overlapping the mast by 10%.
Yeah.
And that's sail area that you are missing.
Yeah.
For the self-tacker. What about the main?
Okay, well, hang on, I'll close off one other little thing with the jib.
Sorry.
The other thing too is with the self-tacker, as you tack, the sheet slides from side to side on its track, which
Yep.
is great. But then as soon as you want to bear away and go onto a reach, as you ease the sheet, the clew just goes up in the air and it doesn't go out, and the sail is very inefficient shape-wise. So you lose performance downwind as well as upwind. But you know, for ease of use, it's hard to beat.
So if you have time for, or don't have much crew, or don't have much crew to know what's going on.
Or you might have a young family or a partner or a wife who isn't into sailing and doesn't want to be involved and doesn't want to pull a string.
Sure.
You can just unfurl the sail and do it all from the cockpit. And once the jib sheet is set, that's all you have to do with the headsail all day.
So we'll call the in-mast furling the self-tacker, and we call that luxury sailing.
That is luxury and easy. So moving on to the in-mast mainsail, there's different options available there. The standard option is just a sail with no battens, and that has a hollow in the leech to support the sailcloth. So you lose quite a lot of sail area in that sail. And I guess if you're looking at the boat we're on now, and we're just going through a ferryway, so we're bobbing up and down, you can see on the leech of our mainsail, I'm going to shoot this with the glasses, take my hat off. You can see that the roach extends beyond the straight line from the head to the clew.
Yep.
And the topping lifts there, so that gives you a bit of a visual on what we're talking about. So there's extra sail area beyond that straight line.
Yep.
So you lose that roach, but you also lose the area that's hollowed out. So you lose a fair bit of performance there, but it's very easy to use. To go to the next level, we can put battens in the sail, and that allows us to make a straighter leech and
Now,
more area.
Those battens are vertical battens, all right?
Yeah, and if you go back through some of our tests on other boats, we've actually had a couple of sails, and maybe we'll do a wrap up of different sail options in a later YouTube video.
Yeah.
and we'll list the boats with the different sail options,
Yeah,
so our viewers can actually see what we're talking about. So you lose a fair bit of performance, but the in-mast furling and self-tacking jib's the easiest option. So the next option would probably be what we've got now, which is a full-sized headsail on a furler and a mainsail with battens with reefing.
Yep.
And on the side profile, you can see that it's quite a nice sail profile. And even in this super light air, we're sailing along. We're doing 3.5 knots, and you can see from the drone footage, there's not a lot of wind, and we've had a lot of waves slowing us down. But this is a really user-friendly, efficient sail platform, and it serves most people's sailing needs very, very well.
And we got single line reefing on this one. Yeah, we do.
Yes.
Yeah, so that the reefing the mainsail is relatively straightforward. You just
you drop the hay, you pull one rope, and the luff and leech reef come in. So it's a very safe and simple system. And then we've got the boom bag. So at the end of the day, when the sail's down, we just zip that up, and the sail's away, and the jib's furled up like any other furling jib.
Now it's slightly more complex to hoist these sails compared to unfurling and in mast, because you just got to make sure the sail doesn't get caught in the lazy jacks, which is those drovers holding up the boom bag.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Yeah, but it's not not that hard. And then I guess the last option is to upgrade to maybe some performance sails. A lot of the boat manufacturers now are offering what we call a square top mainsail, where there's a lot of roach in the head of the sail, and that really lifts the performance. And when we tested the Sun Odyssey 380, that boat had that sail package, and again, the viewers can refer to that and see how much more area there is in those sails. And they're generally made from a more high-tech, low-stretch material, which makes them lighter, and they'll hold their shape better.
What about for longevity? Say someone who wants to perhaps get the longest life out of their sails, be that for cost effectiveness or whatever.
Yeah.
What would someone choose? Those more expensive performance sails, are they going to last as long as, say, Dacron, or what's?
Look, it depends on what direction you take. We're just going to do a little tack here, Dan.
Yeah.
But generally, Dacron, which is what these sails are made from, is the most durable option available.
Right.
It's the most durable, and it's the most cost effective. Hence, it's probably the most popular material used in sailing. So yeah. But again, it gets back to what you're doing with the boat.
Yeah.
If you're just cruising, Dacron serves you well. If you want to do a little bit of twilight racing or a fun regatta like Port Stephens, a more high-tech sail will give you better performance.
Yep.
And obviously, North Sails can help you with that if you'd like us to.
Yep. And what about some downwind options, but keeping it simple? On a boat like this.
Look, there's been a fair bit of work done in that area over the last few years, and what's become quite popular is a cruising Code Zero.
Yep. And
with those, we basically make them out of spinnaker cloth, which keeps them lighter and easier to handle, and also more cost effective. And that's just like a big furling headsail that we see here, but it's made out of lighter cloth and it's a deeper sail. The other thing that's become really popular in the last 2 to 3 years is furling jennicas. And we make an easy furling jennica where the sail furls around a lightweight cable.
Yep.
And then when you deploy it, the halyard is pulled very taut to get tension on the cable. Once you unfurl it, it becomes more like a Code Zero because it's got a tight luff.
Yep.
And then if you want to go downwind and sail deeper angles, you use the halyard and it becomes more like a jennica.
Is the direction all furling downwind sails these days, or are we still using those, essentially those socks that you see?
Look, socks are still popular. It just depends on the boat and the setup, and you have to talk to your sail maker about that because there are limitations on how you can furl sails. if the halyard is too close to the crane at the top of a masthead rig boat, or it's too close to the top of the headsail, you can't furl the downwind sail up. It'll clash with the head unit on the Jeanneau.
Right.
So that's where you need a little bit of advice.
Yep.
But you know, your sailmaker can help you with that.
Okay. And we're actually moving along. How does the boat feel in what wind and what wind do we have?
Look, we've got a little bit more breeze. We've got 8.3 knots of apparent. We're probably doing 4.4. What is it, Lee?
4.3.
Oh, there you go. Not bad. So yeah, this is it's a little bit more breeze. The boat feels lively. We're sailing at 30 apparent. Numbers are good. It's very light air sailing, but the boat's performing well. And with these standard sails, and they look nice.
Cool. Well, I reckon we wrap it here, and I might use what battery I have left to take some nice stills pictures for the thumbnail. And then let's go and do the motor test.
Let these waves go by.
Okay, so we're doing the motor test, but because the revs gauge is here, I'm going to call the revs to Andrew, and then Andrew can give me feedback on the speed. We have a 3-blade folding prop on the shaft drive.
That's right, yeah, 29 horsepower, Yamaha,
Okay,
with a gory 3-blade geared folding prop.
all right. And look, I can see 2,000, you're just smidgen over 2,000 right now, but we are going through some waves, so...
Yeah, we'll just give it a second for these waves to pass.
Sure. Beautiful autumn day here. It's, the sun's still got some bite in it.
Yeah. I think we've got the best of the breeze too.
Yeah. Yep.
All right, this can't wait all day. So we're cruising along, 2,000 RPM, 5.4 knots.
5.4 knots.
Yeah, and you know we have been going for a lot of waves, so maybe 5.5 on in dead flat water.
Sure.
Hey, just going up. We're at 2,500.
Okay, so you're almost there. 2.4, 2.5.
Now let's just let the speed build a little.
That's on 2.5 now.
Speed's building, 5.8, 5.9. Okay, 2,500 RPM. We have 6 knots of boat speed. So,
6 knots.
Yep.
Okay. Noise levels are a little bit higher with the shaft drive on this boat, but it's not rude. We can still hold conversation.
Yeah.
But we have had quieter boats.
And we got a little bit of turbulence
Little
coming
bit
off
of
the
turbulence.
transom.
Yeah.
Let's see what we'll just go full noise now. See how we go.
Okay, you're hitting 3,000 there. You're above 3,000 now. That's looking, is that full noise?
That's full noise.
Okay, so that looks like 3,400 to maybe 3,500 RPM. Or boom.
Just give it a minute. Numbers is building. So, sorry, what was that number for RPM?
3,400 to 3,500.
Okay, so 3,400 RPM, 7.4 knots.
7.4. Okay, so a little bit of a speed increase. So you might as well just cruise around to 6 knots.
Yeah, it's probably going to make life quieter and more comfortable.
Yeah, because look at the disturbance behind the boat there. That's a little bit noticeable.
Yeah.
So let's back it off, just see what happens there. You know, it is noisier. You do feel a little bit of vibration. Nothing uncomfortable. Still, it's a boat.
Never recommend you go full noise with the engine, but
nah, it doesn't make
it's
sense.
just a very brief test to just see what we can max out at.
There you go.
But that's a much more comfortable noise level. What's that? What are we at there, Dan?
So that's just
over 2,000.
Just over 2,000. I'll just quickly take everyone downstairs so you can check the noise levels with me. Okay, so this is what it is downstairs around the engine. We'll go forward. Not a huge difference. You still actually notice the motor up here in the bow. Obviously, we're only on a 35-foot boat, so it probably is to be expected. And I think, given it's a shaft drive versus a sail drive, she's carrying a little bit more vibration throughout the boat, but it's perfectly acceptable. Right, Andrew, you've had a few hours sailing. We didn't really get the wind we wanted, but we did have some wind. So in the time that we've had on board,
What are your observations on this 350 Sun Odyssey, and who is the person that's going to see the most value of get the most fun out of sailing something like this?
Yeah, Dan, we were a little bit unlucky. The breeze was very light today. Probably goes down as one of the lighter test sails we've had. Not as bad as your one in Cairn, but you were stuck in Cairn, so sometimes lost bad. But yeah, look, the boat sailed really well. I mean, we only had maybe between 4 and 6 knots of breeze, but she felt lively. When we got a little bit of breeze in Rose Bay, she really came alive. And as I said when we were filming, any boat can sail in 12 knots. But if a boat can sail in 4 to 6 knots and be responsive and feel lively, I think that's a good sign. Felt really responsive on the helm, good visibility around the boat from the helming position. Ergonomically, the boat felt really nice. Everything was in the right place, as you'd expect from a successful yard like Jeanneau. They really do a lot of homework on making sure everything's in the right position.
Yeah.
In terms of potential buyers for a boat like this, it's probably a great first yacht for someone getting into their first sailing yacht, whether they've come from maybe dinghies or a lot of we find often in this industry people sail when they're younger, and then they go off and they get a career,
make their money,
and then they have an opportunity to get back into sailing with their family, maybe with their kids, and so I would say this would be a perfect boat for that.
Yeah.
Or as we're seeing more of, a good entry level sailing yacht for someone who's tossing up between sailing and powerboats.
Yeah. Yep. I understand. That makes a lot of sense. And you can also see, and I'm raising this one because I actually have friends who've looked at this for that purpose, downsizes. He came from it was actually a deck saloon, 45-foot deck saloon, and was looking at this purely because of the ease of handling.
Yeah, and I think...
And the size. Makes it easy.
And I think, the fact you mentioned deck saloon.
Yeah.
Deck saloons are lovely, but when you're trying to bring the boat into the dock on your own, or maybe with only yourself and one other, there's so much windage to the deck saloon. Yep. And so, apart from the physical displacement of the boat, you get a gust of wind, it's just going to respond to that gust more than a lower winded boat like this.
Yep. Even just leaving the cockpit, you've got to step over all the coamings, whereas here...
Yeah, well, when you come into the marina, if you get lined up, you can scoot forward and jump through the side gates and get a breast line on, and once that's on, you're secure.
Yeah, yeah.
So I could see that appealing, and people are downsizing a bit. And the other reason you can look at downsizing is the boats now have so much space down below, and the cockpits are so much better. You're getting in this 35 footer what you're probably going to get in a 38 or 40 footer 15 years ago.
Yeah, I understand. Mate, thank you once again. That was very educational. I hope you guys got some value out of that. Andrew and I are just independent boat testers. We are here to evaluate the boats on our own, and we're not associated or affiliated with any of the brands, and we're not selling any boats. So if you're trying to buy one of these boats or compare this to something similar, or trying to find the right sails that suit you, Andrew's the man. He's the one who's sailed the America's Cups. He's also a professional sail maker. So you can contact him on Minnect. That is in the link below in the description. You'll find that link right there. Right now, we're going to be doing the detailed tour. So if you like what you see with the sailing and the operation of this boat, and you want to discover the interior features and the layout, that's the next video. Click on the link coming up on the screen right now, and we'll see you there. Thank you.
Thanks. See you next time.
Cheers, guys.